game day.
Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of Chiefs Focus Live. You're here with JP, Quentin, and Caleb. What's up, fellas?
Doing pretty good. How are you guys doing?
Not bad, not bad. Not bad at all. Got a little giveaway going on. We got a lot of stuff going on. We just got to get the people on here to listen, and we're going to talk about some stuff, some things, some accolades. You know, Nick Bolton. Let's start off with Nick Bolton really quick. Get that out of the way, and then we'll go into Quentin's stuff.
So we see that Nick Bolton as a whole, he's considered to be one of the best linebackers in the league. And what we see today is he considered a top 10 linebacker. And that's coming a long way from what we've seen. You guys probably remember this whenever it was that Thursday night game when Tyreek Hill went off. He had the long touchdown pass from Alex Smith. He had the punt return against, forgot the guy, Marquise. And then we see in that game, Derek Johnson, who was considered one of the best linebackers for the Chiefs, tore the Achilles. And the linebacker room was just never the same after that. And that was 2016, 2017, I believe.
Yeah, 2017,
and
I think.
Throughout that time, they had different films like a Neiman. Sorensen played that hybrid linebacker, had some flashes in the pan. Then we had Willie Gay, which kind of helped stuff. But Bolton has really solidified that position and has just done so much for the team. And in his second year, I mean, top 10 linebacker is not bad at all. I mean, when you look at it compared to where he started at, where he was in that limbo phase, where he was on special teams and didn't have the green dot, and then eventually got the green dot, Nick Bolton had just come alive and just done so many terrific things for this team. And I know people all the time say, well, he's not good in pass catching covers. Regardless, I mean, I've seen Nick Bolton. He's got interceptions. He's learning. And Nick Bolton, I believe, is going to be, of course, some of the players on the defense that I believe the Chiefs are not going to get rid of after his quote-unquote rookie contract is over.
I agree with you there. I think, we talked about this a little bit off air, and, his speed is, Derek Johnson had speed, like game speed, where his mind was so quick and he could read everything so quickly. And I think that's the only thing that he really has over Nick Bolton right now. Nick went through that phase his first season, his rookie season, where he's a rotational piece at the beginning. Hitchens got hurt. He came in, tore the league apart. Then he took the green dot away from Neiman. And, not too many guys get the green dot their rookie season. It just doesn't happen.
On a Super Bowl level team.
Yeah,
it's not like he got it's not like he got the green dot, because there was nobody else around him. This was a team that had established veterans on it, and
Absolutely.
He was given that position. So I just want to throw that in.
Absolutely. I mean, he's a stud. A lot of people, and a lot of people complained about that signing. If you remember right, it was almost 50-50. People were complaining about bringing him on. Then there was people that were happy that he came on, people that actually understood football. He really showed up and showed out. And I think he's just, he's top 10, but they're not giving you an exact ranking. And I think he's probably within the top 5 of linebackers in the league right now. So I don't know, man. I'm just happy he's with us, and I agree with you. I don't think he's going anywhere. There's some questions about Willie Gay, whether he'll be re-signed again. Really, I think a lot of it's going to depend on this season and how.
Quentin says no. Okay, we're out to hear Quentin's rebuttal. All right, go finish, JP.
Well, I think it's going to depend on how the other linebackers that we've drafted do. They had a decent. Chanel had a decent season, but Willie Gay is a pretty damn athletic player. And it's hard to find somebody with his speed and athleticism in that position. And also, who took his place when he was out? I can't even think of his name right now.
Chanel?
No,
yeah.
No, there was another one.
Terrence Smith?
No. Guy that's been with us for a while.
I'm not for sure. I can't think of the name.
I can't think of his name right now, but it'll come to me.
Maybe
he's been with
Sorensen?
us for a little while. No, it was another guy, a linebacker. Dang, I can't think of his name. But anyway, he took his place for a little bit. If anybody's in the chat that remembers, please tell me. I'm sure Philip's on here. He'll remember because Darius Harris. That's who it was.
Yes, Darius.
Thank you, Chiefs Live. Welcome,
Thank
brother.
you.
How you doing? Harris is good, but Willie Gay's better and fast. So, and it's not like a high paying position in this league. It's not like it's, you're not talking about a defensive edge. You're not talking about, a defensive tackle. You're not talking about a left tackle. It's a linebacker. And I think the Chiefs they may pay Willie Gay to stay simply because he's done so well with this team. So we'll just have to see. I mean, we've got a good core group of linebackers. You do need depth at that position. So why not? If you can keep Willie Gay on another, like say a 3-year deal, because Leo Chenal's on his rookie 4-year deal right now, still got 3 years left on it. Why not sign him to a decent contract and rotate him and keep legs fresh? I don't see anything wrong with that.
And one thing it's kind of interesting. I was surprised that the Chiefs took Leo Chenal, but I believe he was too good not to pass up when the way the draft fell, because they kind of did prepare a year in advance just in case Willie Gay is not going to be there. I mean, as much as I would love for Willie Gay to be here, it probably is not going to happen just due to the market value. I mean, I would love for Juan Thornhill to be here, but the market value and the money. Maybe Willie Gay is different. It seems like he's planning to submit to his life here outside a lot of other things, so I could see it possibly. But the way these things work, but typically after those rookie contracts, and if agreement can't be set and they can't reach a certain number, something's going to happen, unfortunately. So,
yeah, I agree. I think you bringing up the Juan Thornhill comparison is perfect, because Juan Thornhill came here. He was a solid safety. He was able, you were never like, man, look at this elite level player. I'm so happy we drafted him. But you were never like, man, he's really holding this team back. He's given up a ton. And I feel like that's the same way Willie Gay is. He is a solid player. He does what he needs to do. If you remember back when he was drafted in the second round, Kansas City was an aging defense, and it lacked speed. And specifically, they did not have linebackers that were able to cover in the pass game. And that's what Willie Gay brought to this team. And they have guys in the locker room now that can do that. So I see no situation where Willie Gay is brought back. I don't see him getting re-signed. I think it's a Juan Thornhill thing. He will end his career here, or he will end this rookie contract here, and he will spend his career somewhere else. He'll go get a 4-year deal, maybe with a team like Cleveland, or I'm sure the Cowboys will be looking for a athletic linebacker, because they always seem to be signing guys like that. So, I see no reason that he ends up back here in Kansas City after his rookie year deal's done.
Well, I just look at I understand the Juan Thornhill comparison, but they are two different market values. I mean, safety market value versus a linebacker market value is two totally different things. And I think that's where it may end up being. If he wants to stay here, he would take a team-friendly deal. I think he would take a decent deal because he is worth market value.
Yeah,
he
or you can make the argument maybe over.
Or
especially
over
if he has like a year where he jumps the bar even higher than what he had this last season.
Exactly.
Because he's improved in the running and even the pass game.
Absolutely. So I think maybe if he took a team-friendly deal, I can't see why they wouldn't take him, given the fact that they have a couple of guys that are in the locker room that are on rookie deals. They're paying minimal money. You keep a guy like that because you want the depth in that position. And we do rely on our linebackers a lot. So it's, it just really depends on how these guys work out. And, God forbid somebody gets injured, not Willie Gay, but I'm saying one of the other players, if they're in rotation and they get injured or they're not playing up to par, Veach he's not a dummy. And neither is Andy for that matter. And it's ultimately going to end up being on Spags, whether he wants to keep him or not. Thornhill was a different situation, I think, just simply because of the locker room issues that they had in 21. And that played a big part in it with them not re-signing him.
And I think also he's won 2 Super Bowls, and it's like the guys we have now have a chance to be just good as him or maybe even be better. That's what they're showing. Yeah. So it's like if we lose him, it is what it is. It's not that big of a deal ultimately because the guys we have that we brought in free agency and or drafted have shown they can play in the biggest stages and come up big. So
yeah. Well, we'll have to see how it plays out. what we talked about Tyreek Hill a little bit before. We'll talk about it really quick. Smacked a guy in the head. Guess apparently he was a boat dock worker. Worked at the boat docks down there. Tyreek made a comment to him that he would buy the boat and the guy, which was pretty stupid.
He said something along those lines.
Yeah,
that's
something
what was said on Twitter. I don't know if that's 100% true.
Yeah,
you know how Twitter is.
Well, yeah, but given the Tyreek's mentality,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably true, or some variation of it. He, we actually talked about this on the show after he left Kansas City, that it wouldn't take. I didn't doubt that he would have some kind of an issue in Miami at some point, in his career down there. His second season, and who knows if he's had other issues that have just been swept under the rug. But I don't see this. If the guy does end up pressing charges, which apparently the police said you're going to have to go above us if you want to press charges, I don't know how much validity there is to that. Maybe they're just Miami fans and they don't want to press charges. I don't know. The guy was assaulted. He can press charges if he wants.
Yep.
Everybody's looking for a payday. And if Rosenhaus, the thing about it is Rosenhaus can't bail him out because he was standing right there when he did it. So it's not like he can make an excuse for him. Now, can he pay it and get it taken care of? I'm sure he could. But if he wants the charges not to be pressed, it's going to be settled some way or another. I mean, honestly, one of these players can spit on the ground and a speck of it land on somebody's shoe and they're getting sued. So, or they're getting assaulted. It's an assault case. So it's just one of those things. But Tyreek, we talked about this last night on the other show, and I think it holds to be true. He was handcuffed here. It was part of his deal that he wasn't able to go out and do the things that he wanted to do. He couldn't go to bars and do the crazy stuff that he likes to do and all the stuff he wanted to do. And that was that's why you saw him go out when he was in the off season, or it was a long weekend or whatever. He was in Miami doing what he wanted to do because he couldn't do it in Kansas City. So that was part of the reason why, I'm going to say a minute part of the reason why he was traded. There was other reasons, but look, he's got this year and next year left on that contract. If he makes it through next year's deal, which I don't know if he will or won't. I don't know if they're going to pay him that much money. He says he wants to retire at the end of this contract. If he's adamant about that and he does want to retire, good for him.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be 30. He'll be 31 when he retires, which is fairly young for a wide receiver. That's, relatively in pretty damn good condition.
He hasn't hit his decline yet, and as Quentin said, Tyreek Hill plateau when he hasn't hit that decline. So
he hasn't plateaued yet.
Maybe this will be the season.
It might be.
Maybe the next one. So
it might be. You just don't know. If they extend him out for another season and give him a fat signing bonus, and then he loses out on the remaining amount of that contract, he's still not hurting for anything, and he gets his retirement money then for what? I think it's 20 years. He'll get retirement money of a pretty good chunk of change every year from NFL retirement. Mm. So, if he retires, he retires. It is what it is. Now, one other thing. Let's segue into something really quick because I'm kind of tired of Tyreek and all of his bullshit. But
I've got one thing that I want to add on to that.
Okay.
I have an interesting. I don't want to call it a theory because I don't know if it's going to happen, but a food for thought. We know that the NFL, even if there are no charges pressed, can come down on their personal conduct policy.
Yep.
Just ask Ezekiel Elliott when he got suspended for 6 games despite no charges being pressed.
Yeah. And
we know Tyreek Hill has already had issues with this in the past, which means that the NFL would come down on him harsher.
Yes.
Right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's the way it accelerates. Like, it gets more and more harsh every time. So we face the Dolphins week 9. Ezekiel only got 6 games. What are the odds that if he gets suspended and charges are pressed, Tyreek Hill gets suspended for 10 games?
I think it's very slim.
That's what I know.
I think he may get a couple.
I'm just saying that there is a sliver of a chance that smacking a dude on the back of the head means that he won't face Kansas City in Germany. I don't think it'll happen. Depends on, if that reportedly there's some video of it of the incident. So if that comes out and it's, worse than just a smack on the head, then, maybe it ends up being that. And, all this smack talk that has already started will mean nada because you didn't learn in kindergarten to keep your hands off other people. It's
Well,
just something that
Great point, Quentin.
it's something
It's a
that I
great
thought
point.
earlier today.
It is a good point. I doubt very seriously he gets more than 2 games, but he will get 2 games. It may end up being a 4-game suspension or a 6-game suspension that they appeal and bring down to 4, or 4 they bring down to 2. I don't think he's going to get 10 games. If it was a DV case, totally different story, but it's not DV. So I don't see it happening, but, much more than I can't see more than 4 games total.
Well, because Ezekiel Elliott didn't have charges pressed on him, and he still got 6 games.
Yeah, but he was blasted and threw a guy through a fence here, dude. It wasn't like he didn't just smack him in the back of the head. He put the guy through a fence.
We haven't seen the video, so it's reported as a smack in the head, but I don't know.
What is a smack in the head?
Yeah, what's a smack in the head?
Yeah,
First of all,
Ezekiel Elliott pulled a linebacker
player,
on that dude, man. I mean,
any
it wasn't
football player. I don't care who you can be a kicker, and you smack me in the back of the head on a dock, I'm falling off the water.
Oh,
I'm going like, you're going to put me in concussion protocol. I'm going to look like a soccer or a basketball player. Okay, I'm like, oh my god, like that's what's happening. Okay,
what's my name? What's my name? Who's my mom? Yeah, I know. I know what you mean, but Zeke, he basically just. He hurt that dude. I mean, it wasn't just a little smack. He put him through basically a guard gate, which is a heavy duty gate, and took the gate down. So he hurt him. I mean, he did hurt the guy. So I don't know if this guy probably got a little bit of a headache from it, but I don't think he got thrown through it.
But again, you got to keep your hands to yourself.
We should absolutely keep it in the back of our head because it would be pretty funny.
It would be funny
if he ends up not playing Kansas City because he karate chopped the back of somebody.
Hey man, I think it would actually be comical if he couldn't play in that game. But you would hear the backlash that well, we didn't have Tyreek, that's why we lost 36-14 or whatever excuse will be. But whatever. It doesn't really matter. You got all these other weapons. If you can't do it without Tyreek, we did it without Tyreek.
Yeah.
We won 3 times without Tyreek. So, and we actually did it in pretty damn good fashion. We put up 36, 40, and I think 34.
Average over 30. I think we scored 40 points 2-3 times this last season. Yeah. And I think with Tyreek Hill only did that maybe once or twice a season. So,
yeah.
It worked out. So.
And in fact, one of the 40-point games, it was without Tyreek and Kelsey because they both had COVID, if you remember, right? So, and I understand it was against the Raiders, but it doesn't matter. You still put up a lot of points against a team that without your 2-star players, and that kind of also, when you think about it, that kind of showed the Chiefs that they could do it without Tyreek Hill because it's a divisional game. They're always tougher. And we whipped the shit out of the Raiders twice, So it is what it is. But regardless, moving on, there is a little talk that I've heard that Carlos Dunlap's coming back to Kansas City for a 1-year deal. So if he comes back, that's fantastic. I'd love to see him back on the field with us. We will see. But that was the talk earlier today that I heard. Somebody called me. So we'll see if it actually happens. We'll know by training camp, or maybe before, but it sounds like he might be back. And if he is, I'm all for it. I don't know about you guys, but I'll be happy if he's back on the field with us. He's a great mentor. He's a great player, and he's got a lot left in the tank. What do you guys think?
I don't see why not. It's only going to help this team. I think we're at the point we still need a veteran face on the defensive side of the ball in the locker room, specific for the edge rushers, for at least another season or 2, and he could be the guy that could really do it and help everyone. He's learned a lot. He's been with a lot of different organizations. He was with the Bengals, with the Seahawks, and he's with now the Chiefs. It's only going to make everyone in the room better.
Yeah.
It's going to make everyone in the room better. It's just individually, it's going to create more opportunities for all these other guys. We're at the point where pretty soon, probably maybe not this season. We'll see glimpses of the next season. I think the defense, especially the defensive line, is going to be top 5 NFL. Is going to start turning some heads. I really do believe and feel that just due to the additions the Chiefs have made and some of these different players that not many people have been talking about. So like FAU, I'm talking like these other guys like Carl Loftus, B.J. Thompson, who's a 6th-round pick, who I think who would have an ultimate, could do some ultimate great things on the field. And lastly, if you can have Dunlap in there teaching those guys, it's going to be a great time. A great time.
I agree. Quentin, what do you think?
I mean, I think that, like I said, Kansas City needs to sign somebody else. Carlos Dunlap is one of the guys remaining, but there's still a solid list of guys that are still available, right? And any one of them that ends up coming here, we know last week, 2 weeks ago, I don't know. It's all Frank Clark. Anyways, Frank Clark signed with Denver, so he's off the board. So Kansas City needs to look for another guy. There are Yannick Ngakoue, Jadeveon Clowney, Akeem Hicks. I mean, the list, Robert Quinn, I believe, is available. There are still...
Well, you got Trey Flowers. You got a lot of guys that are still out there on board.
There's still a good list of guys that are available. One of these guys is ending up in Kansas City.
Well, I know the Chiefs did talk to Yannick. But I heard that, they do like the fact that Dunlap is coming back.
Dunlap is a good... I mean, Dunlap is good. I'd be fine with Dunlap. You just know. I think Jason Pierre-Paul, it seems like the perfect fit here in Kansas City too. Just because he just seems like that veteran guy. Kansas City always seems to find one of these guys is ending up here in Kansas City.
Exactly.
Brett Veach seems to do this every year, and we know that this is a young room. There really isn't anybody of like real veteran presence besides Chris Jones. There definitely isn't in the defensive end room. So, to bring somebody in, I'm good with that.
Yeah, I am too. I like Dunlap just because he knows the system and he did so well with us. And I do like Yannick. I would love to see Yannick here. He's younger and he's got that speed. Now, we also have the opportunity to make that trade with Washington. And if that happens,
Chase Young.
Yeah, I think that's another that to me that would count as like the veteran move, right? To bring somebody else in, that sort of counts for me. So if they didn't sign somebody but they brought him in, I'm still taking credit for them doing that. So I think that Yannick Ngakoue is a good fit here in Kansas City. They just need somebody else on that defensive end. They need another rotational piece because Kansas City doesn't have that like number one sort of pass rusher. Their defensive end edge room is a lot like their wide receiver room right now, where they don't have a number one pass rush guy. Their number one pass rush guy is the defensive tackle, right, with Chris Jones. So where they're on the offensive side, Kansas City doesn't have a number one wide receiver. Their number one wide receiver is a tight end. So you just get a bunch of guys, and that's what Kansas City has done on the wide receiver room to save some money, and that's what they're going to do. It looks like on the defensive side too, is you're going to just get a bunch of guys that can do the job effectively, and with the pressure going to get up the middle, you'll be fine.
Yeah. Hey, how about bringing back Brody Croyle there?
No, next move.
That's funny.
No, that's not funny. Too many painful memories, Jay.
Can you get an F in the chat?
Yes,
Oh God. But yeah, I mean that the Chase Young situation is still viable. Tommy seems to think, and if anybody knows who Tommy is, he's on our show. He also writes for us at Chiefs Focus, but he tends to think, or he thought that Clyde was going to be back. Clyde is not. I don't believe Clyde's going to be here. They tried 3 times to trade him already. I know that the enemy loves Clyde. They're both running backs, by trait. I think that if the trade happens, it's a good trade for us because it's a $4 million deal. If you figure we make Washington eat part of that deal because of his injury history, and we owed Clyde $2 million, so we could potentially break even. We give him a 5th-round pick because we got potentiatory picks coming anyway, and then we get a 6 back. It's almost a no-brainer. So if we have the opportunity to do it, I would take Chase Young in a second. But I would also bring Dunlap back at the same time. But this all, again, this is going to hinder, and I think it's going to get close. It's probably going to happen. I think deals have been, especially with like a Dunlap, have been kind of already agreed upon to a degree, but it's going to stretch out a little bit longer because of the Chris Jones extension. That's probably going to happen right at.
Yeah, we're not going to hear nothing until a week before training camp, or
That's exactly
probably a couple days before.
Couple days, but it's going to happen. I mean, there's no way it's not going to happen. So it doesn't benefit either side not to get that deal done, and it just is what it is. Anyway, this says I'm cool with Young being on a 1-year rental type of deal of sorts. I agree.
That's what it would be.
That absolutely, it would be a 1 year with an option,
and that's why I'm a little scared Beach won't do it, because long term they won't have him.
I mean, but you sign Carlos Dunlap and you're not having.
That's fair, and they have done in the past, like guys like Darren Lee, Reggie Ragland, I believe was one, or he was here for a couple years, so it's happened. Who else did we Chiefs recently get?
Well, we had what's his face from Miami too that we picked up on a 1-year deal. That came from Pittsburgh. I mean, originally from the Chargers, Pittsburgh, and then us. I can't think of his name right now. Edge rusher. He's with Miami right now, or was last year.
Oh, Melvin Ingram, and most recently would be Mike Hughes, who is with
Mike Hughes.
So, I'm hoping.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, Veach has got a lot of stuff things up his sleeve, and I agree with that. He said, "I doubt FEU is ready. He could be a Taco Charlton. He could be right. I mean, Taco kind of, he had spurts, and then when he left, he did fairly decent. I mean, he wasn't horrible. He's still in the league. So I don't know if FAU is going to be ready, but you never know. I mean, a lot of people didn't expect our defense last year to be ready, and they end up 11th overall. So we'll just have to see how that plays out. But anyway, let's get on to Quentin's stuff.
Okay, so we can just thought about doing offseason, look at some of the past teams that, because Kansas City has had some damn good players over the years. And so I thought, you know what, let's just talk about some good players Kansas City has had. I wanted to talk about some of the best offensive, defensive players over the last 20 years, because that's my football relevancy. And if I go before that, I would not be, I'd be talking out of my ass. I don't want to do that.
JP's period.
Yeah, I'm talking JP's period, and then we go back to like before the Super Bowl, and it's just like, is that even football at that point? So,
wow, the rudeness.
So, do you guys have your list of football players?
I'm ready to go.
Players?
I'm ready.
Do you guys want to start with offense or defense? Dealer's choice.
Let's do defense.
Yeah.
Defense. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is not in any particular order. If we want to have honorable mentions at the end, because I feel like we're going to have a ton of overlap here. So my list is Tom Lee, right? That's Tom Lee, Justin Houston, Eric Berry, Chris Jones, and Derek Johnson are my top 5 defensive players since the year 2000.
Okay.
Oh, you're just going back to the year 2000?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, that sucks.
Yeah, you're missing some good guys there, but it's okay.
We got it. I mean, honorable mentions. I mean, shit.
I didn't want to go. I had to set some sort of a time.
No, that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, my list is just all fucked up now because I didn't know you were starting at 2000. I mean, I was going to go back to 1990 and bring up some guys that really were animals, So now you got my list all screwed up. I mean, I will go with Justin Houston, Tamba, of course. I mean,
I think Tamba. I think because Justin Houston was here after Tamba. I think that Justin Houston is remembered more in the eyes of Chiefs fans than Tamba was, but Tamba was more talented than Justin Houston.
He was.
Yeah,
he
that's
was.
true.
There was no doubt. Derek Johnson, of course. Can we use players that we have up until today, or
Yeah. That's why I have Chris Jones.
Yeah, Chris Jones is definitely one of them. Let me think. I like some of the secondary players that we've had and we have right now, but I'm going to have to say McDuffie is one of those guys that really puts a. You're not going to forget McDuffie. You're just not. You're not going to forget a guy like him. So what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4. I need one more. Who could it be? Who could it be on the defensive side that I am forgetting about? I'm going to go with Frank Clark.
Okay.
I am. I'm going to go with Frank Clark because Frank did a lot for us. He helped us win 2 Super Bowls, helped us get to 3, and I'll never forget Frank being part of the Chiefs. So since we have to stop at 2000 at this, can I throw in an honorable mention?
Yeah, you can throw it on, but we can come back to honorable mentions too.
All right, let's do that afterwards. Go ahead, Caleb.
All right, so here's mine. One of my surprising guys is Charvarius Ward. In the horror that Quentin and JP and we all witnessed in that 2018 season, Orlando Scandrick, David Amerson, everyone was getting burnt, and there was one lone player from Middle Tennessee who the Chiefs were able to trade an offensive lineman to get him. Ward has done a very good job. He has some up and down years, yes, but he has been consistent. That first year was a little rough, but for the most part, he kept everything in check. And because of that, even on that really terrible defense, Ward was doing well. It's also one thing to say, too. I believe he was injured during the AFC Championship game. So, no, he was there because I thought he had the interception to win it. And we were all happy. And then the rest of their flag, offsides D4. But that's here for another day. The second guy I have is Chris Jones. Chris Jones has been nothing but a monster, a great player, very athletic, very smart, is very sound, knows what he's doing week in and week out. He's so good that he has had to utilize his game and not only get into the quarterback and filling in the running lanes, but swatting the ball. And that's one thing I've seen he's noticed as well. Next player I have is Derek Johnson. DJ, I remember when the Raiders, I forgot which game it was when I was a kid, they ran 4 times on 4 times on the 1-yard line. He stopped them every single time. And this was the old CBS logo stuff, and he just dominated. And as I said earlier on our show, ever since he had that Achilles injury against the Raiders, I think 2016, 2017, the linebacker core hasn't been the same since we had guys like Willie Gay and Nate Bolton. The next guy I have, I'm going to say, is Frank Clark. The reason why I say is because Frank Clark single-handedly changed the defense. Now, some may say, what about Tyrann Mathieu? I agree Tyrann Mathieu helped, but Frank Clark came in and brought some attitude and some fierce competition to that defense. They were tired of being pressed around, and he always stepped up for his teammates and was ready to go. The last player is one player I wish he still has that long, sustainable career, but that was Eric Berry. I do not like how everything ended. It sucks he had to deal with the day-to-day stuff with the bone spurs and the fans giving him a hard time, and that's probably the reason why he does not get on social media anymore. If you look back at his account, he likes tweets every once in a while, but when he would play on the field, he was dominant, and he came back from when he came back from Kansas City, he played. I did not like how John Dorsey decided to pay Sorensen ahead of him, but that's a story here for another day. But he is considered one of the greatest players in Chiefs memory that will help that defense reach greater heights.
And I'm glad you said him because actually it was hard for me, and I was trying to decide, and Eric Berry just, man, the dude was so dominant in everything he did. He came back, he got comeback player of the year. Just, had a tumor in his chest the size of a soccer ball and still was able to do what he did. I agree with you 100%. Great call there. All right, Quentin, who's next? We doing offense, right?
Yeah, you want to do our honorable mentions?
Oh, let's do our honorable mentions real quick.
Yeah, I've got Brandon Flowers, the corner. He was here for 5, 6 years. I mean, he was between him and Brandon Carr. You're talking about one of the best corner duos that I think. I mean, I've seen as a Chiefs fan. We'll see what happens when in the next coming years. Maybe that gets rivaled with McDuffie and Snead and company. But Brandon Flowers and Brandon Carr were two great corners. And then my other one that I want to bring up is Alan Bailey.
Ooh,
The defensive
yes.
tackle right before. He was that guy right before Chris Jones.
Yeah.
And when I was looking back at some of these teams, I was like, oh, that's a good player, and that's a good player, and that's a good. I was like, oh, no wonder that this team was constantly was constantly winning the division or in the playoffs. These were some good defensive teams, especially in the 2010-ish range, right before the offense really started to kick off. Alan Bailey is someone else that I wanted to throw in there. I just think that, when you have Chris Jones, Alan Bailey gets knocked down a notch.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, you can't really deny that. My honorable mentions, I'm going back prior to 2000. I don't care what you say. Neil Smith, Derek Thomas. Just those two guys alone were the most dominant duo, in my opinion, that's played the game together in that position.
Yeah.
I don't know that there was ever a better duo than those two guys. And to be able to sit on the field and watch them do their thing, it was just, I don't know. And it's not biased. It's just being honest. It was unbelievable to watch what mainly Derek can do. And then when you pair him with a guy like Neil that wanted to compete, I guess if you want to call it that, or Derek rose. He brought the level of Neil's play up, and it was just an insane duo to watch play the game and play so well, especially with a great defensive line that they already had. And then you bring those two guys together. Oh God, it was just. John Elway still has nightmares about Derek Thomas and Neil Smith. So, I don't know. Those are my two honorable mentions. Yeah, I know it's before 2000, but hey, man, you can't talk about some of the best players with the Chiefs and not bring up those two guys. So
that's right. My two honorable mentions. One of them is Sean Barber, great player for the Chiefs back in the day.
I love Sean Barber.
Not many talked about him. I mean, but he's done a lot of great things for the Chiefs. I mean, he's also on the radio too. He's had some wild takes. One of them was to pay Charvarius Ward 5 years, $70 million before he went to the 49ers, but that's neither here nor there. Great player, though. He was doing a lot of different things, especially in that early 2000 transition period. The last player that I know a lot of people don't like and gets a lot of hate, but it's me as a young Chiefs fan, Marcus Peters. I liked him as a player. I like he didn't have I don't care what you think about me attitude. Looking back at that now, you can't live your life like that. Otherwise, you're going to go team to team to team. You're going to have issues and problems. He was a great player, though. I enjoyed how we had a cornerback that got all these interceptions, was running the ball back. I will never forget his pick 6 against Peyton Manning in the Thursday night game against the Broncos before Jamal Charles ultimately fumbled the ball away, but that's neither here nor there. Just a great player. He had an all-time rookie season. Obviously, things got downhill. Him and Bob Sutton did not agree with anything.
Him and Clark didn't agree with anything either.
Him and Clark definitely, there were some issues there. I wish him all the best. What I would say is that when he was traded, there were significant issues in the cornerback room. Regardless if he was a quote-unquote cancer in the cornerback room or he was a saint, him leaving caused some holes. And why we had to deal with David Amerson, why we had to deal with guys such as Orlando Scandrick and many others. So as troublesome as he was in certain parts, and I would love to interview him one day, it just came down to the Chiefs we got to move on for the sake of the team. That's what they decided to do. And it was worked out for both parties. He got paid. The Chiefs were able to move on, build the defense, and won 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah. I don't – you know my feelings about Marcus Peters. I feel like he was one-dimensional. And that was my problem.
And that hurt him. That hurt him.
Yeah, that hurt him a lot because he wasn't – he made Deion Sanders look like a linebacker. when it came to tackling. He played that Olay bullshit. He should have just had a red towel in his hand, and because if anybody was coming at him, he just let him go by.
He did get good at stripping the ball, though.
He was very good at that if he had an opportunity, but he
did have opportunity.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. When he had the opportunity, he was good at it. But it was just one of those things that
last game, though, he showed up. He had an interception. He was playing to the final whistle. He thought he had a strips fumble against the Titans, another bad moment. But, I mean, he laid it all on the field, but it just, unfortunately, is just one of those situations where they just moved on.
I would say Marcus Peters is only good in a good defense because his aggressive style of play gets him burned. So if he's on a bad defense, he's going to look bad. But if he's on a good defense, he's going to look great. Because his aggressive style of play will get you turnovers. But if he's not able to do that, if he's not able to take the risk, if he is in a defensive system that the coach doesn't allow him to take those risks, then you lose a lot of his value. And honestly, I don't necessarily have a problem with my corner trying to jump a route, especially if I have a safety over the top. If there's a chance, if my cornerback thinks he has a chance to intercept the ball, I'm willing to give up an extra 15 yards and my safety have to come up and make a tackle because turnovers win games, especially when I have an offense that scores almost every time it touches the football. So if, let's say, hypothetically, we get a corner that plays that very similar aggressive style like a Marcus Peters, like let's say McDuffie turns into that, where he gets burned a lot, but, he's able to pull multiple interceptions a year. I can live with that, even though there may be shows I would come on and bitch about it. In the end, I would like that because, there is nothing more related to wins than the turnover ratio.
Yep.
I can agree with that. I mean, there's no doubt. And let's be honest. I mean, it wasn't just the fact that he got burned. It was the fact that he allowed himself to be burned. A lot of times, even if he wasn't in position to, jump the ball, he would still allow himself to be burned. And a lot of that was because he tried so hard to be the interception king when he really didn't need to be at that point. And that's where a lot of the problem came in with him. You can, and one of my other honorable mentions, and people may not like it, is Breezy. I forget, look, Breezy was an aggressive player. Breezy, he wasn't a lunatic, but he was an aggressive player. He played the old school style of corner. And, during that era where, they were really throwing flags left and right. I mean, he touched the cleat of a guy's heel when he fell on his face and got flagged for it. Because refs didn't like the way he played the game. But he was a very aggressive player, and he played very well up until that last season. And to be honest, Quentin, let's think about something. When Marcus Peters went to the Rams, he went straight downhill because he had to play the position the way it's supposed to be played because Bob Sutton just didn't want to argue with him and just let him play the way he played. It wasn't a matter of, you have to play a certain way. Just play the way you want to because I don't want the drama and the arguments. When he went to the Rams, he went downhill because he had to play the position as a corner is supposed to play it, and they were a damn good defense. And then you fast forward to the Rams, he didn't do that great there either. So he didn't have the success after he left Kansas City with either team that he had with Kansas City, and we had a worse defense when he was with Kansas City, an all-around defense. We didn't have the greatest defense at that time. So I don't know if it's a matter of good defense, bad defense, or if it's the fact that if he has to play the position the way it's supposed to be played, he doesn't play it that way.
I mean, he's not a pure man-to-man corner all the time, but nobody is anymore.
Yeah, everyone's a hybrid.
The position you can't play man-to-man all day. I don't know. We'll never have another Revis Island. Like that's just not the way the NFL is set up anymore. So if even you could play perfect tight coverage and quarterbacks now, wide receivers now, with a better throw than perfect coverage, you're gonna get, long touchdown passes. So that's why I think that, corners, if you do feel like you have a chance to get an interception, especially if you have safety help over the top, whether it's because you're just playing a pretty simple cover 2, over the top, or your safety's playing to the strong side, so you get rollover extra coverage with your free safety, whatever it may be. If that corner, you think you can steal a possession away, it's worth it, because there are so many times that with perfect coverage, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, these guys are going to get their, they're going to get over the course of a season their yards and receptions. So if you can take a ball away one time, I'm okay with giving up a 50-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
That's the way the NFL is now with the rules. You just have to live with that.
Yeah. Well, they weren't that way with that when he played with us to a degree. It was just the fact that Bob Sutton allowed him to do whatever he wanted to do. And I think that was a mistake. And that was fear on Bob Sutton's part. And it was also just being very conservative with his coaching style. But regardless, Marcus Peters has his traits that, honestly, if you really look at it, Tyrann Mathieu had 23 interceptions. And I think, by the time he left Kansas City, and if I remember right, 19 of those were with Kansas City, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to go back and look. But he had an ignorant amount of interceptions, but was still very good at coverage as a safety.
Yeah.
Until that last season. So, when all the drama was going on. It just, honestly, it really just depends. And he actually had a really good season last year. I don't know if anybody followed what he did, but Tyrann Mathieu played very, very well last year. So Marcus Peters hasn't had that breakout season or that great season since he left Kansas City. But regardless, it is what it is. Everybody, everybody has their favorites, and I just didn't. I think Breezy was very underrated, and I think he was treated very unfairly by refs. I mean, if once he was on the field, they had the flag half out of their pocket. It just is what it is. And that ultimately ended his career with us and ended his career in football for the most part. So, it is what it is. But any honorable offensive now. Let's go to the offense.
Yeah, okay. Everybody has Patrick Mahomes, so let's just not even go there. Okay.
I have Mahomes,
Okay. So I have my 5. Tony Gonzalez. He's the reason I fell in love with football, was Tony Gonzalez. Travis Kelce, Priest Holmes, Jamal Charles, and Will Shields. Those are my offensive guys.
Okay. Well, I'm going to mimic a couple of yours. Tony Gonzalez. Knew him. Very good, nice guy. Very good guy at the time. Great player. I will say Willie Roaf was one of my favorite Chiefs. Probably unpopular opinion offensively will be Bet Blaylock. People forget about how good he actually was. And when Priest Holmes was injured, he stepped up until he got injured. And then it was Larry Johnson that stepped in. But he was a great player. So I have to give him some credit. Priest Holmes, of course, is in that mix. But
I love Priest Holmes, man.
I do too. He's such a great guy too. Just a great guy all the way around. One of the nicest people.
One of the craziest 3-year spans in NFL history.
And think about this. Think about what he came from.
Yeah, he was an undrafted free agent that was washed up in
Baltimore.
And ended up here in Kansas City. I mean, it was a guy whose career was practically over, came up and became the guy in a running system for 3 years and just dominated it. And just,
Baltimore just treated him like nothing. They treated him like he was a nobody, terrible player, and he ended up being one of the best to play the game. So Priest Holmes is definitely a mention. You got to Jamal Charles in there because Jamal is just Jamal. It is what it is.
I mean, out
But
of all of the running backs in Kansas City Chiefs history, I mean, Jamal
yeah,
Charles might be the best. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, he's damn close. Yeah,
that's a tough list. I mean,
it is.
Christian Okoye, Priest Holmes, Larry
Barry
Johnson.
Word. I mean, you're talking about guys that
all the time.
Yeah, it's hard not to put him in that list. I agree with you there. Um, Travis Kelce has got to be my. I mean, we can't put Mahomes in there because Mahomes is Mahomes. But Travis Kelce is one of my favorite players to ever play this game. I mean, he not just from a player standpoint, but from a person standpoint, he's one of my favorite players. He's just a great offensive player, and I am going to bring up somebody. Well, it's going to have to be an honorable mention, so I can't bring him up because we're going by the 2000s. So there's my 5. So,
okay. My 5 is obviously Mahomes is on there. I got Tony Gonzalez. I did see him play a little bit. He was great. It did hurt when he decided to dunk the ball on the Chiefs when it was the Falcons, but regardless, it is what it is. The Chiefs have 2 Super Bowl rings. Next part I have, it actually is Priest Holmes. Priest Holmes is a great running back. I remember watching him play, and it really hurt when he could not play anymore due to the neck injury. Just phenomenal, running all over everyone. The next person I have on my list, you guys may or may not agree with this, but I'm going to go with Dante Hall, X Factor.
Yeah.
Guy from NFL Europe. Came to the league, dominated with the Chiefs. I mean, the human joystick. I mean, basically, for those who don't know who he is, he was basically kind of Tyreek Hill before Tyreek Hill, but did not play as much wide receiver. But when he did play wide receiver, he dominated and did very, very well. So he was one of my favorite players. I always enjoyed him, watching him play. Fun fact, I got to go to a preseason game to see him run, so that was pretty cool. The last player on my list, and you guys probably may not agree with this, but I have to put Hill on there.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill, dominant player. He beat 2015, came in with some question marks and all those things. We've talked about thousands of hours, don't need to get into that. But he started in as a guy that was hybrid player. Number 81 in preseason, running back, wide receiver, hybrid. Then he would had a game where he against the first game of his rookie year, the Chiefs were down like 27-3 against the Chargers. I leave for work and I come back and I see the Chiefs have won. Tyreek Hill scored the first touchdown that season to basically, that season to end that game to basically blow things out of the water. You see that season, he just grew more and more and more as a punt return, all those different things. And then it finally all came full circle whenever against the Broncos on a Sunday night game. I remember this clearly because he had he caught a touchdown, he ran a touchdown, he had he also had a kick return that was what was that? A safety.
99. Yeah, it was a safety.
He ran the ball back for the touchdown. So that just showed me he was a great player, and every single year he just elevated his game more and more and more until he's considered one of the most premium offensive players in the league. To this day, I wish he would have won an offensive player of the year, but since there's only so many awards, you really can't do that. But to see what he was able to do time in and time out had just really just shows me like, wow, when you have a fast guy that puts a lot of work and craft into their game and is focused, he just put everyone else to shame. I mean, he would have some plays where it was like, how in the world did you outrun that guy? How did you get open? I mean, literally, some of the biggest plays in Chiefs history, probably about a good amount of them are going to have Tyreek Hill in there just due to the stuff he did with Alex Smith and what he did with Mahomes.
Yeah. Hey, do you remember, Caleb? We talk about this all the time, but there was a pass. I think it was 2018. No, it was 2019. It was a pass over the middle about, God, it had to have been 60, 65-yard pass from Mahomes. Mm-hmm. Tyreek jumped up, and when he caught that ball, we talked about it on the show a couple of times, he came down on his head, and he never let go of that ball. And I thought, holy crap, how did he not let go? Because he came straight down on his head. He was like a spear. Because he was so high in the air, he didn't have it, and the way he had to catch the ball, it was like he was diving, and he just dove straight into the ground. I'll never forget that play. I mean, look, Tyreek was and still is one of the best to ever play the game, and probably, as of last year, was the best wide receiver on the field. There's no doubt. And honestly, no, and honestly, he's been the most dangerous wide receivers in this game since he's been in the game.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, you could say he may not have been the best his entire career, but he was definitely the most dangerous and the most
one of the top.
Yeah. So I have to agree with you there. Honorable mentions. There's a couple of them that,
I got one no one's thinking of.
I've got a couple.
Yeah. I'm going to go back a little bit because I watched this guy play, and it was because of his one of them, the guys. He had a sixth sense and was able to not get injured. He was the first, in my opinion, the first Tyreek Hill. He ran 4.33, but he really ran a 4.3, 4.29. Is J.J. Burden. People forget about how good J.J. Burden actually was. He didn't get the ball a lot because of the style of play that we had back in that day. It was Marty ball, run on fourth down. But when Joe Montana came, his game changed. And, man, I got to tell you, he was a streak. And to watch, when he went by me on the field, I would have to say, who the hell was that? If I didn't know who it was, unless I could tell by his stature and the way he ran. But you wouldn't know. You couldn't see his number. And I got to tell you, he was a great player. If he played in this era right now, he would be one of the top 5 wide receivers in the league. Without fail, one of the top 5. Just a phenomenal ball player, great ball awareness, amazing route running skills. And again, he knew how not to get injured. His worst injury was against Christian Okoye in practice, and I watched it happen. So, and Christian didn't mean to do it. But my second one, I guess my second honorable mention would be Christian Okoye. He did things that, for a guy that absolutely hated football and wasn't very good at it when he got to the Chiefs, he became, honestly, probably second best running back we've ever had. And I'm only saying that because of Jamal Charles. I don't think if we had Jamal Charles, there would be a second. He would be first because of his power and his ability to just open lanes. And even when lanes weren't there, they ended up being there. And he put a lot of people on the bench. He put a lot of people on stretchers. He was just a great ball player all the way around. So those are my 2 honorables.
Yeah, I want to give Mitchell Schwartz a shout out. He's the reason why he never made the Pro Bowl, and that
was ridiculous.
Yeah, and he is why I no longer regard the Pro Bowl as anything, because he was the best right tackle in the NFL for his career. When Von Miller talks about you being the best at what you do and you don't make a Pro Bowl, it's just disrespectful that you didn't make the Pro Bowl. So
absolutely,
Mitchell Schwartz is a guy that I wanted to throw on there, just because. I mean, the right side was perfectly fine. We were never worried about the right side, and when he went down with that back injury and it ended his career, you just felt like, he still had a lot of football in him. So that's the one. Christian Okoye was going to be the other one that I brought up. Look, when your name is the Nigerian Nightmare and you live up to it, you got to be on the list, right?
Yeah. Christian was a nightmare. And look, just so put this into perspective, I'll never forget this, and I know I've said this before, but the first time I watched him run out on the practice field, I was sitting next to Derek, and I said, "Who the fuck is that?" And he said, "That's Christian." I said, "Christian Okoye?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "That's the guy that ran the 4.53 40." And he goes, "Actually, it's a little bit faster. He ran a 4.47 at one point." I said, "That's virtually impossible. He looked like Adonis." He came out and he had a white, before Under Armour was there, he came out with this white style Under Armour shirt on, and he just looked unbelievably monstrous, but in a good way. And Derek said, "Well, wait till you see him take off running." And he did. And I mean, he was a streak. Just so fucking fast. It was scary to see somebody 260 pounds run that fast in that era because it just didn't happen. You weren't quick then. Not like you see guys now that are 305 pounds running 4.640s. This man was fast. It was game fast, and it was just pure speed that he had. I was amazed by Christian Okoye's speed and athleticism for somebody his size. Still am amazed by it to this day. So, great pick.
My honorable mention players, one of them I have, it's going to be Dexter McCluster. Great guy out of Ole Miss. Running back, wide receiver hybrid, had some pretty good years in Kansas City. Did some great things. Ultimately, did not get to last his entire career here, but he was pretty good for the most part. Next guy I would bring up is Dwayne Bowe. I mean, he's kind of a forgotten player. Dwayne Bowe was great. I mean, his song's not bad today. He makes, but he was a great guy. I remember one of my favorite plays by him is like basically one-handed catch in the end zone. It's a Colts. He's like tipping and falling and like trying to catch with his right hand. I wish he would have the opportunity to play with Mahomes, but regardless, it is what it is. Nothing you can do. But the last player that none of you guys have brought up, and it's a little shameful, is Alex Smith. He turned the tide of this whole Chiefs season.
You are absolutely right.
I remember when they traded him, and my dad came home from work. He was like, "Oh, the Chiefs are gonna be good now. He's a good quarterback." I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, obviously there were some frustrating moments when we get 3rd and 7 to be like, "Can we get the first down?" But regardless, so he brought stability and got us at least to the playoffs where we were going to win a game in the playoffs or we're going to lose. And that's fine. But at least the consistency between 2013 to 2017 is when we only missed the playoffs one year when they were basically one game out of it. There's a lot of issues. They went 9-7 that year. But what we see that's happened time after time after time, Alex Smith was there. Now, he let it rip that last season. Rightfully so, as Mahomes was behind him. But we got to see he really took this team. And because of those trials and tribulations that they went through in that 2017 season where they started off 5-0, then they went 1-6, and they won like the final 4 games, that Mahomes said that helped him because he realized, number one, Andy's going to have faith in the quarterback. Number two, you have to continue to rally the troops. Sometimes the team will go out there and score 38 points, and I remember one time they scored too fast, and then the defense would go out there and give up a touchdown. And things like that. Or some weeks they would only score 3 points and lose to the Giants and be having Travis Kelce throw passes. Regardless, he did a lot of great things, and I hope he comes back and works with the Chiefs or works just in the NFL world in general because he deserves to be like an analyst or anything in general like that to see what he can do because his knowledge of the game is fantastic.
And I will say this. He has done some announcing on I think it was ESPN, or it could have been Fox. I can't remember. It might have been Fox. He did do some announcing. He did a good job of it. I think he would be a great quarterbacks coach. He's got the knowledge. He did wonders for Patrick Mahomes in so many ways. But the one play that I remember, Caleb, is he never cared. You know, he was like, he reminded me a little bit of Jeff Garcia because he would put his body on the line.
He would.
You know?
He would.
And there was a play that he took off down the right side. He had to get the first down. It was like 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. It was a long run. Oh, no, it was 3rd and 13. And he jetted down it was the left side. Jetted down the left side right at the hash mark. This DB came up and just blasted him. And he dove for the first down at the same time. And he spun like a helicopter. But when he landed, his hand was over that first down marker with that ball.
Yep.
And then he ended up out of bounds, but the ball stayed in bounds, and we got that first down. And I thought, oh, shit, he's done. There's no way he's getting back up after that hit. Man, he jumped back up, right back in the huddle, going again.
Yep.
He was that Jeff Garcia-style player that just put his body on the line, and I love Alex Smith. I think he's a great guy. So,
yeah. I think we are missing one quarterback.
If you say Elvis Gerback, I'm going to click you
my
off the
honorable
show.
mention is going to be Terry Poe. And
that's fair. He was a quarterback. Do it to Demetrius Harris.
Oh, don't do that when I'm drinking. Oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
Good times. Good times.
No, but good point bringing up Alex Smith. That's we
Absolutely.
needed
I'm a
to
little
say
shameful. You guys didn't bring. I feel a little bad.
I'm
you guys didn't bring
shameful.
him up.
I feel like smacking myself in the face right now. What about special teams? Have we talked about any really good special teams guys from 2000 on?
Sorensen.
that. Oh my god.
D'Anthony Thomas.
Colquitt, you're here for that long.
Yeah, Colquitt was great.
Who else is there? Colquitt.
Bucker's been I know he ran into those issues last year, but with his injury and all of that, Bucker's still one of the best.
Second best in the league. So, I mean.
So.
Yeah. Who else we got? Of course, you got Dante Hall. He was a special teamer. You know, I mean, no matter how you look at it, he was a special teamer. Why can't I think of his name? He kicked for us for years. Nick Lowry.
Okay.
Nick Lowry was a hell of a kicker. I mean, man, the dude could kick. He was just great. He played for a long time. We had some great special teams players on our roster throughout the last 30 years. We really did. And it's so strange to think about, if you guys really put it into perspective, how many great Hall of Fame or just phenomenal ball players that we had from 1990 through, just say, 2012. But it was so sporadic. And with the coaching staff that we had, other than Dick Vermeil and Marty Schottenheimer, it hurt the team because they didn't have enough of those. We could have had enough of those players if they had the coaching staff to coach them all up. Marty did a good job of coaching everybody, but Dick Vermeil was an offensive-minded guy. You know, of course, every team he coached had the dead last defense. But we had so many phenomenal players that just couldn't get us over that hump. And a lot of it, I think, had to do with coaching. A lot of it had to do with, you know, not just the head coach, but position coaches and defensive coordinators and Todd Haley, which was an idiot. There was things that caused us issues, but we had so many great players over the years. It's pretty insane to think about we had one of the most prolific offensive lines in football, if not one. It could go down as maybe second with the Will Shields, Willie Roaf era. I mean, that was an offensive line that you could not get past. It's amazing to me that we didn't get further, you know, over the years with some of the players that we had, because we had some great ones. And look, man, Larry Johnson's a wackadoo, and I've known him since 2003, and I'll say it, he's not there, but he was a damn good football player. The man was very good at what he did. I feel sorry for him, to be honest with you. I wish he was more with it, but that's what happens when you get injured. I mean, your mind is not all there, and his mind's not all there. Kind of is what it is. Anyway, we got one thing left, and I want everybody to check it out. We have a giveaway on Twitter right now. It's on our pinned tweet. It's from one of our sponsors, Foco Sports. We are giving away a full-size Mahomes Big Head Bobble, ceramic. Not all of them are exact. In fact, let me do this. That way I can show it to you, because I don't know if you'll be able to see it from up here. I definitely don't want to.
Don't drop it.
Yeah,
like I did.
These are made out of ceramic. As you can see, they're really cool, very heavy. You can see this little head bobbling. It is an awesome piece. Every one of them are handmade. They are, again, not all of them are exact. So I think they're really cool. They're a collector's item. They only make a certain amount of them, and you have a chance to win one. So whether it be on Twitter or you follow us on YouTube, you have an opportunity to enter. If you do follow us on YouTube, make sure you DM us and prove it to us that you did follow us or subscribe on YouTube. But make sure you follow and retweet, follow us, follow Foco USA, retweet and like the pin tweet on Twitter, and subscribe on YouTube. And you have an opportunity to win that bobblehead. There were some other items that they wanted to put in, but I think we talked about it, and this was a better option for everybody. I think it's more of a collector's item. So get your entries in while you got the opportunity. And we're going to have some more giveaways coming fairly soon from a couple of our other sponsors that are coming up, and then also Foco is going to give away some more stuff. So, and we may be giving you guys something. We have a plethora of stuff sitting behind me that we can give away. So, if I want to part from some of it, but with that being said, one other thing I forgot: if we hit 1,000 likes, subscribers combined, and followers, I'm going to throw in one of a signed item from a player. I'm not going to say what it is, but I am going to throw in a signed item from a player. If we hit 1,000 followers, likes, and subscribes all together, then we will do that. So you will actually have an option to win an extra prize. So that being said, we appreciate everybody joining, and we will talk to you guys again on Tuesday. Peace out, everybody.